Charlotte keeps showing up on the best places to live list, but people still move away after coming here. So what's going on? I'm breaking down 7 things that catch people off guard after they move to Charlotte. And this isn't theory. I've helped hundreds of families relocate here, and I've seen exactly why some of them end up leaving. And before anyone jumps in the comments, no, it's not just the housing prices. In fact, one of the biggest reasons people leave is actually the same reason most people moved here in the first place. Here's where it usually starts. Charlotte shows up on almost every best places to live list. Fastest growing cities, most affordable big metros, best places to move. People see that and think, this city must have everything, and it costs half of what I'm paying now. Then they arrive. Charlotte's not New York, it's not Miami, and honestly, it's not trying to be. It's a banking city that grew really fast. The food scene's growing, but it's still developing depth. Nightlife has spots, but it's concentrated in a few areas, and there are things to do, but it's not packed every weekend. Now, here's what most people won't say out loud. Charlotte's not a bad city, but the gap between what people expect from those rankings and what everyday life actually feels like here is bigger than people think. And that gap usually shows up pretty quickly when people start looking at housing. Number 2, the affordability myth. Speaking of gaps, let's talk about the one that hits people's wallets. Affordability is one of the biggest reasons people choose Charlotte compared to places like California, New York, New Jersey, South Florida. It can look like a huge deal, but here's what people don't always realize. The most in-demand neighborhoods in Charlotte haven't been cheap for a while. Places like Ballantyne, South End, Matthews, Huntersville, Lake Norman. Prices moved quickly over the last several years. A lot of buyers arrive expecting that they'll get dramatically more house for dramatically less money. And in some areas, that still happens. But when you start looking for strong schools, shorter commutes, neighborhoods with long-term demand, the numbers aren't what they were 5 years ago. Charlotte is still less expensive than many major metros, but it's not the budget-friendly city people picture when they read those rankings. And the purchase price isn't the only cost people discover once they move here, because day-to-day life in Charlotte has another expense built into it. Number 3, car dependency. This is the one that surprises a lot of people because Charlotte doesn't look that big on a map, but day to day, it's a driving city, and you need a car for almost everything. Work, errands, restaurants, kids' activities, dog activities, your activities. Public transit exists, but it's limited. The city is spread out. And even short trips can take longer than newcomers expect. People relocating from places like New York City, Boston, Chicago, they usually feel the difference the first week. Charlotte does have walkable pockets: South End, Noda, Plaza Midwood, some of the suburban neighborhoods. But for most residents, daily life still runs on a car, which means factoring in gas, insurance, maintenance, and sometimes a second vehicle. Those expenses don't always show up when someone compares cost of living charts online. So Charlotte can still be more affordable overall, but that advantage shrinks once transportation becomes part of the equation. And when you combine that with how quickly the city has grown, it leads to our next surprise. Number 4, Charlotte grew very fast. Charlotte has been one of the fastest growing cities in the country. Every year you see new neighborhoods, new apartment buildings, new suburban developments. Growth brings opportunity, new businesses, and new jobs. But here's a trade-off. In some of the areas, most of the areas, infrastructure hasn't kept up with the pace of growth. Roads that felt manageable several years ago can feel very different today. Intersections that used to move smoothly now back up during rush hour. People who have lived here a long time often talk about how quickly things have changed. Growth brought energy and investment, but it also brought heavier traffic, more development pressure, and faster pace of change than most people expected. And that growth highlights another reality that people need to understand when choosing neighborhoods. Number 5, neighborhood differences. Now, this is something families especially should pay attention to. Charlotte, like most large cities, has neighborhoods that can feel very different from one another, sometimes even just a few minutes apart. Crime patterns, school performance, and overall feel can change quickly depending on the area. For people relocating out of the state, those lines aren't always as obvious at first. A house can look amazing online. The photos look amazing. The price feels reasonable. The listing description sounds perfect. But without local knowledge, it's easy to miss how much variation exists between nearby neighborhoods. That's why researching specific areas, not just the city overall, really matters in Charlotte. And why working with someone who understands the local streets and communities can make a really big difference. Even after people figure out neighborhoods and adjust to daily life here, though, there's one more factor that sometimes influences whether they stay long term. Number 6. Career ceiling. Now, this one is going to surprise most people. Charlotte has several very strong industries: banking, finance, energy, and manufacturing. Companies like Bank of America, Truist, and Wells Fargo all have major operations here. But outside those sectors, those professional ecosystems can feel smaller. Fields like tech, media, entertainment, and creative industries exist here, but they are not as extensive as cities like Austin, Nashville, Atlanta, or major coastal markets. So a few years in, some professionals start asking themselves a bigger question. Is the next step in the career available here, or would it require moving somewhere else? And that leads into a broader conversation that people eventually have about Charlotte. Number 7, it's the 5-year question. A lot of people genuinely love Charlotte. They build careers here, they build homes here, they raise families here. But after a few years, some people start asking a different question. Is Charlotte the long-term destination, or was it just part of the journey? Charlotte offers a lot: a strong job base, a manageable cost of living, mountains that are about 2 hours away, beaches that are about 3 hours away. But when certain factors stack up over time, expectation versus reality, rising home prices, driving everywhere, rapid growth, neighborhood differences, career limitations in certain fields, some people eventually decide it's time for their next move. Not because Charlotte failed them, but because their priorities changed. And that's something you don't always hear discussed when people talk about moving here. The reasons people leave usually aren't dramatic. They build gradually. And by the time someone notices it, they've already spent a few years wondering what their next step should be. One video can't cover everything about living in Charlotte. So if you're trying to figure out whether Charlotte actually fits your lifestyle, the next video you should watch is my pros and cons about living in Charlotte. In that video, we break down the things that really shape someone's experience living here. Go check that one out next. And if you're new here, I'm Inga, your real estate bestie, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.